Hey guys, I always like starting with this. I absolutely love this image here, but as you can see, we're going into Adolf Hitler. This is Adolf in World War I. As some of you may know, he did fight in World War I, and we've talked about it in class, how that mustache kind of goes through a different fad as time goes on with Hitler when it goes to this style here, and that was due to the fact that his trial in World War I, when he was hit up with the gas, his mask couldn't be put on, and it did not get properly put on because his mustache was blocking it from sealing, so the gas got through and ended up blinding him. So he got rid of that mustache and kept a little patch of it, so he would be able to withstand another attack. Anywho, Adolf Hitler, not from Germany, from Austria, and makes his way into the German army and becomes a big fan of Germany. And there's a lot of what ifs that we talked about in class. You know, what if his mother did get that abortion, or what if he was accepted into art school? There's a lot of different things that could happen. Or what if he had gotten, killed from the gas in World War I? And there's another what if here that maybe you have not learned about in previous history classes. But on his rise to power for the Nazi Party, when they were headed to the beer hall to raid a political conversation, he was met with or by the police force, and there were shots fired, and the man on, I believe, his left actually had gotten shot. And what if it was Hitler who had gotten shot? Could he have been killed? Would he have had an enlightened moment? Who knows? But instead, he was arrested, and in that time of being arrested, he was able to write this terribly racist book called Mein Kampf, and in English it says right there, it means my struggle. And I mean, for anybody to say that no one knew about his racial tendencies against Jews, that's just straight up poppycock. Because if you take a page out of this book, pretty much any page of this book has some sort of Jewish hate sentiment written down, and he was not scared to say it. He was open about it. He was totally all about hating on the Jews. So he was extremely anti-Semitic, and in this fashion, during this time, it was kind of a popular thing to hate the Jews. There were Jews in Poland, Jews in Germany, and in France, and a lot of different groups did not want this particular group inhabiting their country. So in many cases, there were experiences that the Jewish people had where they were forced to migrate. The word for that is diaspora. Don't forget that one. So anyway, when he goes to jail, he gets a 5-year sentence, but he only serves 9 months of it because he had good behavior. And he gets out, and the Nazi Party actually gained popularity from this book and because of his arrest. Some historians actually say if Hitler had never been arrested, it might not have put as much of a limelight on the Nazi Party, and they may have never come to power. Just wanted to throw this out there while we're talking about books. Part of being a totalitarian leader in a fascist government is censoring what the people see, think, read, and hear. So he took a lot of the books that may have had a sway of a different thinking, and he pretty much just made a big pile and just burned it to the ground. And other groups throughout Germany took it upon themselves to also have their own book burning parties, and of course showing their national loyalty, Heil Hitler, in their communal sort of way. So again, this is kind of a scary image here, but this was the reality where people were actually coming together and having a strong sense of unity, which could be very overwhelming. So in your class, we talked about Mussolini, we talked a little bit about Hitler, and this picture kind of shows their growing relationship as friends. My grandfather loved Mussolini to the point where he just can't admit that Mussolini was actually friends with Hitler. He says that the only reason why Mussolini was friendly with Hitler was because he knew if he wasn't, Hitler would have probably aimed for Italy at some point or another. So in order to keep the Italians safe from Hitler's wrath, he joined in on what Hitler was doing. But what my grandfather also admits was that eventually the Nazis do come to Italy regardless of the friendship that they had, and the Nazis will inflict their cruel behavior upon the Italians. So in many of his speeches, and another thing that's weird is that from the gas that he experienced in World War I, some people say that it altered his vocal cords, so that when he did give speeches, his voice was so inspirational and passionate, and it sounded different from anything else anybody's ever heard. I was not there, so I can't attribute, or I can't defend that. But when you do hear his speeches, you do feel his passion. I invite you to go check out some of his speeches. It's kind of wild to see how he was an excellent orator, and how much the people are like basically drooling over this guy. I mean, women would treat him like he was the Beatles or some Justin Bieber's not cool anymore. I got to get up with the times. But, they treated him like an idol, and they would scream and cry and try to reach out and touch him. And in his speeches that he gave, he openly, betrayed a lot of the groups that many people would love to blame. He created a scapegoat for everything that was going on that was wrong with Germany. And if you could blame someone and focus all your hate on one group or a couple of groups, well, then that makes you look better. And he's also saying, hey, you know what? Germany didn't lose the war. They just made us say that, and we can come back from this. So as the months go on, in 1933, Hitler slowly rises to power and becomes their Führer. And everybody loves it. And if you don't love it, you can pretend you love it because you are fearsome. You become fearful of the secret police that he has, the SS that's formed, and you have fear of being an outcast. Nobody likes being the person that nobody wants to talk to. And again, this is your home, so you see it fastly changing, and you want to become a part of that change. Whoops. So. If you remember our past discussions on Germans' power and success in history, you'll remember or recall Otto von Bismarck mentioning that the First Reich was with the Holy Roman Empire and how great they were. And then the Second Reich obviously was OVB's unification of Germany, he himself. And then we have the Third Reich, who would be Hitler's master German race. And this, he predicted, would last for 1,000 years. We all know that it definitely does not. This is something that I hope to do, but it basically shows you the roles of women in Hitler's society. So I'm just going to skip that for now. And we're going to go into the totalitarian state of Hitler's world. And we talked a lot about this already, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But because he limited the role of women in the workplace, and because he forced Jews out of a lot of the economic businesses going on in Germany, he opened up jobs for what he considered true Germans. So of course people are going to love him because unemployment's going to go down. Indoctrination through education, we see the Hitler Youth, and actually providing them with a role or a purpose. A lot of times when kids are growing up, the parents will mention, oh, you can't do that, you're not old enough yet. And this is Hitler's way of saying, you know what, you are old enough and you can do something for us. And it makes the youth of Germany actually feel included upon this massive change. So even as a youth, you can receive honor and certain awards. And again, that raises your prestige and your feeling of honor for your country. here's where we start to get scary. Germany will set up the Nuremberg laws, which are basically a set of rules that will restrict Jews in a social life atmosphere, political atmosphere, the economic atmosphere. The Germans, or what would be considered true Germans, cannot marry Jews. The Jews could not go to the schools that were German, so they had to go to particular Jewish schools. They couldn't have any political office job. They couldn't practice, law or medicine, as it says here. And in this light, some of the first people that are going to go are your teachers, are your lawyers. They're the ones who are going to speak up against this first. So in a lot of cases with massive killings, the ones who speak up are the ones who are killed first. Moving on into some other things they had to do and wear: a Star of David. This star does go back in representing the Jews, and the Nuremberg laws was a first sign of, maybe we should get out of here. And Albert Einstein was one of them. He actually flees to the United States, where we will actually use him on research of the atomic bomb, which he regrets. This, if you actually, I think you might still be able to click this link. It's a video on YouTube. You could, if it doesn't work, you could just type in 1936 Berlin Olympics, and it should show you the video. But what's cool about this is that for the first time in years, this Olympics was actually, it had the most country participation ever, but there was also actually a drive to boycott the Olympics because Hitler's hatred towards the Jews started to be more exposed. So one of the countries, like the United States, was actually thinking about boycotting it, but they did their research in Germany and saw that the Jews weren't being mistreated, so they deemed it as okay to enter into the Olympics, which is kind of crazy. Alright, this is a fancy fella here. Most of you probably don't know who this is. This man's gonna be the cause of something called Kristallnacht. He was a young Jewish man in France who had heard his parents were mistreated, and he pretty much goes off and kills a diplomat of Germany that was in France, and basically set off something called the Night of Broken Glass. And the German government basically says, you know what, we're gonna okay a attack on Jewish communities tonight. And people go out and they just destroy businesses, they steal things, they burn down the synagogues. And after all of this, the Jews then also had to pay for the damage that the Germans had done. And this is going to progressively move towards taking the Jews and putting them into the ghettos, taking them from the ghettos and putting them into the concentration camps. So this is the beginning stages of what we call the final solution, which Hitler was saying killing the Jews is the solution to our problems. Here's some pictures and some newspaper articles. You can check this out and pause it at your own will. So again, here's what I was talking about before, and you know a lot about this already, so I don't really have to go into much detail. But this was not the only genocide that had occurred. There was one prior to this, known as the Armenian Genocide. So if you want, you can go online and again type in the Armenian Genocide and watch a video of that. I believe it was from PBS. I'm not sure. I'll hook you up with that on Monday or Tuesday. But this is going to lead us into how the Allied powers of World War I start to target Germany for what they're doing and expose their break of the Treaty of Versailles and walk us down the path towards World War II. I tried to fit that as best as I could into 15 minutes, so there's many other things I could talk about and say, but I do not have time. If you'd like, come after school and ask me some questions. Good luck. Check out Chapter 30 for further details into where we're going.